Hello, everybody, and welcome to Norm, the Cheers podcast that isn't. I'm Mike, that's Tookie, that's Dave. We are here every week celebrating the greatest live-action sitcom of all time, Cheers. How was everyone's week? Everyone have a nice, solid week?
Yeah, it's exciting. There's a cold going around my house, which is thrilling in a pandemic. Because every morning you wake up and you just kind of assess if this is a cold or hay fever or possibly the end of the world. It's exciting.
Well, you all just had COVID, right? So that's one thing you should be okay on.
I have still, knock wood, dodged this particular bullet.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're one of the people they need to study. They were talking about that in the New York Times. Like the people who have just somehow still not gotten any form of COVID, they're like, we need to be studying these people and figuring out why.
I am available. Hit me up, daverabinow@gmail.com. Available for all medical testing.
I believe that was one of the promises. If you buy an album, Dave is happy to donate at least some genetic material for the greater good.
You pick the source. I will drop it off. Available in ounces, pounds, or kilograms.
There you go. I would really love it if somehow Dave was hold the key to eternal life for all of us.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Like in 1,000 years, they're going to be like, let me show you patient zero.
Yeah. The trick was apparently that all you have to do is look like Christopher Lee from Lord of the Rings.
In 1,000 years, no one will be able to see, but they'll have amazing beards.
No, the measurements you gave remind me of, this is dark. Sorry, viewers at home. My dear uncle who had passed away in 2013 got cremated. And in just the most like nonchalant, I wouldn't say callous, but just like in a too chill manner, when his ashes were being dispersed to family members after the service, the priest told me, "You want 1 tablespoon or 2?"
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the cremation itself wasn't casual. Like that's when you actually are burning a body, you're hoping that that's done in a professional manner.
Yes.
It was the dispersal of the
Remains.
the residue, shall we say,
Yes.
of the cremation. Okay. Gotcha.
Was that an actual, like, was he joking or was that like an actual kind of like decision you had? Wow. Can I ask what you opted for?
2.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would have done the same.
Yeah.
1 feels disrespectful.
Yeah.
That's enough, Uncle Bob. I'm really trying to cut back on Uncle Bob.
Yeah.
Pinch goes a long way.
Yeah.
All right. Very nice. Let's dig into the week. And then, because I want to save some Celtics time at the end for an amazing game that I've still not fully recovered from. Have not fully bounced back from it. So we can't start off with it because I don't think we're going to get to Cheers. So let's talk Cheers first. Season 4, Episode 8, Love Thy Neighbor. Dave, what was happening in 1985 when this little beauty premiered?
The show premiered on November 21st, 1985. I was actually preempted on the East Coast for about 40 minutes by President Reagan's address. I don't know what the topic he covered was, but I'm certain it would make me mad if I was to look it up. But on the 20th of November, 1985, I was reminded that Don Mattingly was awarded the American League MVP. Don, I realize I take Don Mattingly for granted as an evergreen sports figure, and now I realize that Don Mattingly is probably not somebody that virtually anybody thinks of outside of some disgruntled Dodger fans, and if there are any Marlins fans in the world, and then like Yankee fans of a certain age. But Don Mattingly was so good. Like he had an amazing year in 85, had a better year in 86, was so great through the 80s until he hurt his back towards the latter part of that decade. Just an awesome ball player. Jim Rice got into the Hall of Fame basically for being the most feared hitter of the 70s. By that criteria, Don Mattingly deserves to be in the Hall of Fame because he was such a badass in the 80s. Great mustache, second best athlete from Indiana. Don Mattingly, you're deserving 85 AL MVP.
Well, it begs the question, is it better? Like, Jim Rice fell off a cliff, really. He was unbelievable, and then he was really great. I mean, in 86, he was still a 300 hitter with 20 home runs, and then by 88, he couldn't do anything anymore, and he was out of baseball. But we remember him as being great right up until the end. With Mattingly, he was great, great, great. Then he hurt his back, and he still played like 6 more years or 5 more years. So there's this memory of him being this first baseman who would hit 8 home runs. I feel like that has hurt the Mattingly legacy, that there's a whole bunch of people who their last memories for a while were him basically just being Wally Joyner.
Yeah, and he was hurt as the Yankees were ascending. Like he was so good when the Yankees were terrible, which was, as a Red Sox fan, was kind of a balm to me that they had this incandescent star, but still couldn't do anything with. But then as the Yankees kind of transitioned toward the 90s and started to build this juggernaut, he, legit kind of became this weird player. Yeah, like a slap hitting first baseman, at a power position at a time when the ball is jumping out of ballparks. I think his star is dimmed somewhat, but man, he was raking in the 80s.
Tookie, as a younger person, what are your thoughts on Mattingly? Like, what do you think of when you hear that name?
I think of like a very venerated, respected figure in sports for people of a certain bracket. So like by the time I was sentient, it was all about Ken Griffey Jr. But by the time I could Google things, then I could look back and see the Mattingly era and kind of understand. But it was a name that was definitely heard around adults.
How many people know Mattingly just from Homer at the Bat?
Wow,
just from that episode of The Simpsons. I feel like it might not be a huge segment, but there are definitely people who just know him because they've gone back through all the old Simpsons episodes, and that's like this landmark episode. And they're like, all right, tell me about this guy. Yeah, him and Steve Sachs, I feel like from that episode are the ones where people are like, oh, wow, that kind of came out of nowhere. Who are these guys? Because Sosha managed for like 20 years. I'm sorry, Tookie, what were you saying?
No, because in that episode, Trevor made me watch it. They're kind of the elder statesmen among the ringer players for the Springfield nuclear plant softball baseball team, right?
Mattingly a bit. I don't think Steve Sachs was that old at the time.
Okay.
Steve Sachs was it's the weird thing that there is usually not that many great second basemen at any given time in baseball. It's just that kind of position. And so I don't think there was anybody real special at that time. They're like, all right, he'll do. And I think he was probably just very personable and interesting. And all right, Steve Sachs, he liked being out there in the world. Come on over.
Yeah, Steve Sachs had that reputation as like the funny ball player.
Yeah. Yep. But Mattingly was definitely kind of the senior member of the club at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, he was, legend emeritus.
Great stories on, like, if you go through the players on that Simpsons episode, just incredible stories. Darryl Strawberry and Clemens and oh my gosh, just like McGuire, like just up and down, like it's unbelievable. Canseco, like I would watch a 4-hour documentary about any one of these players.
I don't think, not just to be a Simpsons and baseball nerd there, I don't believe McGuire was in that episode.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, he was.
He had a cameo in a later episode where the satellite falls out of the sky. Yeah, where Bart is on Ritalin, or the Focusing. the stand-in for Ritalin in that episode. But McGuire's not actually in the Homer the Bat episode.
That's right.
I can name every position player from that episode. And I will probably never have sex again after I do this. But here we go. Mike Scioscia, Wade Boggs, Ozzie Smith, Steve Sachs, Mattingly, Strawberry, Canseco, Griffey, Clemens pitching.
You say you're never going to have sex again, and yet I've never been hornier.
This is my Burt Reynolds on the bearskin rug moment. This is my Cosmos centerfold, baby. All right. Tookie, if you want to follow that, let's hear about the cold open.
All right, here we go. Speaking of horny.
It's a horny episode.
Yeah. Okay. So we enter into the bar, and two townies are walking out, getting ready to pay their tab, and they're like the Charlestown and the Quincy just leaked out of these guys, right? Like the towniness, you could feel that, right? It wasn't just me.
No, I agree 100%.
Like this is just a whole lot of Brockton Bridgewater energy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't feel like they came from the city. They really,
No.
they did feel like they dropped in from Lynn. They came up from Brockton.
Yeah.
Yeah. These guys
Yeah.
feel like they got a drive ahead of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the deep South.
Yeah. Southern and Western Mass is what I call Puritan Florida, but Southern Mass, yeah, it's the accent and just the slower pace of life. It is sort of I won't say too much that's incriminating. So we enter the bar, and these two very, very thickly accented townies are getting ready to pay their pads. Oh, you sure you don't want to have another round, Jack? Not me, pal. Let's get out of here. And so one goes up to Woody to ask, what's the damage, Mac? And Woody says, well, let me figure it out. That'll be $27.50. And the guy goes, ouch, you sure? And so Woody's reading back their order to him and says, yep, you gentlemen had 4 peach daiquiris and 3 creme de menthe frappes instead of fraps. And Cliff hears this and is laughing at their drink orders. And until he hears one of them behind him go, something funny, dipstick. And when Cliff turns around and sees the size of these guys, he's just, and taken aback and shocked, just, well, in the newspaper this morning, because he was reading a paper while laughing, it seems that Sarge got tricked by Beetle Bailey again. Beetle put some itching powder in his shorts, and I thought, and the guy's like, I thought maybe you were laughing at our drink order. And Cliff says, oh, no, on the contrary. Woody, let me have another mocha frost, will you? And keep them coming. Roll credits.
Nice. I think part of what made us feel like those guys weren't from the city is that they were doing that kind of broken Boston accent that a lot of the co-star cameo parts for bar people are doing because it was filmed in LA. So it's like he's trying to do the drink order, but also saying I thought you was laughing. Like it's half Brooklyn, half Boston. Yeah. So all right, these guys are not authentic.
No,
these guys are not authentic.
No. Plus, I don't think either one had a mustache.
No, one of them did.
Oh, did they? Okay.
I think one of them had a beard.
I mean, maybe that was it.
Maybe. I might be wrong.
I could have used a big, thick Bill Buckner mustache. You want to convince me you're coming up from Attleboro.
Yep. We could all use it. All right. Season 4, episode 8, Love Thy Neighbor. We got an A story and a B story this week. Let's jump into the B story real quick. The A story is all norm-centric, and I had a lot of fun with it. The B story seemed ridiculous to me. The B story felt silly, didn't feel justified. You got Fred Dreyer, but he was only on the phone. I didn't understand it. Sam is doing a quick radio appearance with his old buddy, Dave, who somehow always has these different jobs in sports. He's the TV anchor, and then he's the guy hosting the post-game radio show. So he's doing a lot of stuff. Here he is. Sam made him Malone on as his guest right afterwards, and they're making fun of Sam as usual because no one's calling in, just saying, anyone, you can talk about anything at all. Finally, someone comes in and asks him about being a ladies' man, and he says, oh, yeah, well, although a lot of the women I dated, they didn't even care for baseball that much. I remember one little love bunny actually brought a book to read between pitches. Yeah, and Diane is listening. She's horrified by this. He comes out, thinks it was a great appearance. She is furious. This carries on for the rest of the episode. And I'm still not 100% sure what she was mad about. Just because Diane being Diane, I don't think she would care that anyone knew she was bringing a book to the game. I feel like it would be expected. And yes, I read between pitches. And it's like, all right.
Point of pride for her.
Yeah,
exactly. And then being called Love Bunny. But then after she had write something for him to say as an apology on the next day's radio appearance, he then playfully calls her Love Bunny again. And she goes, she loves it. So I'm like, all right, I guess it's not Love Bunny. What are they mad about? I just felt like, hey, we just need Diane to be mad about something. So you do this thing. Did anyone else read this more clearly than I did?
It's a weird. This felt like a very like general like we need Diane. We need to remind everybody that Diane's high strung. And this is a pretty like cheap and easy way to do it. But yeah, it didn't really. I mean, she sells the heck out of it. This is where like.
I mean, Shelley's Shelley and Ted's Ted. Just as a story, I was like, it feels like it would have been very easy for him to actually say something inappropriate.
Yeah.
On the radio. Mm-hmm. That was clearer. But yeah, I just read that and I was like, I don't think Diane would be at all bothered by people knowing she brought a book to the game. She would be proud of it. Yeah. Yes, I brought Tolstoy to the baseball game. It's just not enough is happening for me. I wanted to enjoy this.
I wonder if, as they worked on this episode, and I know we're going to talk about this, but Miriam Flynn, who plays Norm's neighbor Phyllis, she and George Wendt have such fabulous chemistry together. I wonder if they just said like, all right, we really need to like, I want like maybe this A and B got flipped, or maybe it's always going to be a Norm centric episode, but they just kept scaling back the B story because like the scenes between the two of them are great.
Yeah.
They're really terrific. And they really find a way to like give Miriam to give Phyllis this like genuine arc. And like, it seemed like the cost of the episode is Diane, the logic behind Diane's upset.
That's a really good point. Yeah. It feels like it might have been something along those lines. They just enjoyed writing for Miriam Flynn so much that, we're going to finish the Sam and Diane stuff in a little while. And then finally they were like, you know what? Ted and Shelley can just make this work.
Yeah, it has that feel. It has that feel like this is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Really not a lot of knots tied. Ends left loose, if you will.
All right. I'm glad it wasn't just me reading it that way because I felt like, am I just a bad male? Where I'm like, I don't see a problem there. Like just hearing it, I'm like, logically, I would have understood even the Love Bunny part of it if she hadn't later been like, Love Bunny, when he calls her that. So I don't, okay. Anyway, that's the B story. Let's not spend too much time on that. Miriam Flynn, a classic, that woman from the 80s.
Oh my God.
Was in so many great things, and they never seemingly found just the right thing for her to be the lead of. But she's in so many funny things. I remember her being in Mr. Mom, which was one of my favorite movies as a kid that I saw earlier than I should have. She was probably most famous for the National Lampoon movies, where she was playing the wife of Cousin Eddie.
Also, the thing that caught my eye, where I think I know her the best from, was from Babe. She's the voice of the mother you in that film.
Oh,
and she's amazing in that movie. Like her voice acting is terrific.
I don't think I knew that.
I so remember
now.
Babe.
It's
But
great.
Do you guys remember Gordy?
Which
The
one?
knockoff Babe?
No.
The what?
Gordy. Dollar Tree Babe. Because you know how
Oh yeah.
yeah, studios always do the thing where it's like, oh, there's a movie with this premise. Now let's release a movie with the exact same premise, different cast.
Mm-hmm. Super
And
cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
So that was Gordy.
Nice. So the A story is Norm is coming in, and he was not in Cheers last night, which is of course very unusual. Turns out he and Vera and their neighbors went out dancing. Although Norm doesn't actually dance, so Vera was dancing with the next door neighbor's husband the entire evening. They start teasing him for it, and he says, it's fine, it's not a big deal. Then Miriam comes in to talk to Norm, says, I believe our spouses are having an affair. Everyone, of course, hears this. And so they're like, okay, should we hire a private detective? And yeah, two great character actors in this episode.
Mhm.
Miriam Flynn and then one of the classic that guys of the 80s who pops up in everything. Dave, I'm blanking on his actual name and I don't have the note in front of me.
Ernie Sabella is the actor's name.
Yes.
Ernie Sabella, yes. Comes
Kills
in crushes playing the cousin of Carla, the private investigator. They call him in.
Santo Carbone. So fucking
Santo. Good. Oh God, it's good. Santo is so delightful. They say, you don't want to hire me. And then they say, no, we do. Yeah. Johnny Mathis, by the way, very big part of the Cheers universe. Yeah. Norm calls to make sure that Vera is actually at home. Yeah. The listener, she said she's just home playing records. Oh, okay. Yeah. I heard Johnny Mathis playing in the background. Of course, we don't have a Johnny Mathis record. And she says, we do, which is my 80s thing of the week is just, this is the only music available to us at any given time. This is the record. I know exactly what music we own. It's a finite amount of music as opposed to now, which is my wife could be playing absolutely any song that's ever been recorded in human history at any time. And that's the clue. So they do hire Santo to look into it. The next night, he's supposed to be reporting back to them. They're talking about it. They're getting furious at the thought of, oh my God, if they're having an affair, I'll tell you, I'm going to have an affair. And then Norm says, yeah, me too. And they try to figure out who they'd be having an affair with. And then one of the greatest erotic scenes ever since Someone to Watch Over Me and Body Heat occurs. As they start approaching each other, there's a delicate dance of flesh. And then they start passionately necking. Santo walks in and goes, oh my God, it's a great reaction. He's disgusted by what he's walked into, especially since as he is going to play on the cassette tape of the couple that he has caught, they say, we can't do this. I just realized I still love Norm. So yeah, they're not going to have an affair. Norm realizes, no, I can't cheat on Vera because Miriam Flynn is still totally ready for Norm, by the way. So that marriage next door has got issues. Yeah, and then Norm is feeling like a hunk. She calls him a hunk. He tries to flirt with a girl who's just wandering into the pool room. She shoots him down. End of the episode. Lot to like about this week's episode, I thought. I really loved, I loved George Wendt and Miriam Flynn together. They were so good together. Just absolutely hysterical. They worked off of each other beautifully. It's too bad that she's introduced as a character that would be having an affair with Norm, because otherwise you could bring that character back, and now obviously you cannot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very, very good. Tookie, what did you think of this week's episode overall?
I have a zero tolerance policy for infidelity, so it was very but at the same time, I wouldn't blame Vera for stepping out.
Tough to.
At the same time, yeah. I'm like, Vera needs to have a hot girl summer because I can't with Norm in a lot of ways. But overall, I feel like we're finally Cheers is starting to get into its form in a sense. And we saw glimpses of this with season 3 because season 2 was all sorts of a dud. So we saw glimpses of the Cheers writers kind of getting in their bag. And I think this is the first David Angel episode
Angel.
that hasn't pissed me off. So
Nice.
yeah, making strides.
Strong.
This one's definitely ranks. I didn't laugh as much at this one, but it definitely ranks above last week's episode for me.
This is
Dave, what'd you think?
like legit one of my favorite. I kind of, when it unfolded, I sort of remembered this episode and I was like, oh, okay, this will be a Norm centric episode. And I tend to like Norm centric episodes, although they tend to repeat themselves because there's only kind of so much you can do with some of those secondary characters. And is it going to be an episode where like Norm remembers that he loves Vera? And it is that, but they do something so they realize what they have with Miriam Flynn, and they really kind of shift the bulk of the storytelling of the episode to kind of her arc, which like lets Norm just kind of be Norm and do Norm stuff, but not have to sort of carry the emotional weight of the episode, and they let her kind of do it. And it's really satisfying in a way that like sometimes I feel like sometimes Cheers casts great actors in supporting parts and then kind of doesn't sort of cuts them off at the knees a little bit. This is an episode. It sort of reminded me of Coach and his daughter from season 1 in that we get like we really get somebody outside of the bar. We get the full scope of like their life and where they're at this moment. And like Phyllis is really the sort of emotional engine of this episode, and she's like so up to it, and like it reveals colors in Norm that we don't necessarily see, and it's great. I love this episode.
Yeah, it is. It's really nice, and you see a lot of Norm. When he's having that conversation with Woody, which is one of my favorite scenes, where he's talking about when he first saw Vera and fell in love with her, and then makes a joke about who she is, and then says, "No, it was Vera. I was so in love with her." And there's a lot of crystallization of the characters. Woody, I mean, my joke of the week was Woody saying, "Who won the game?" That was got me every time. The 2-part joke of the week, just Woody saying, "Yeah, who won?" And I said, "I don't know, but I could tell you who lost." Well, just from that, wouldn't you be able to figure out who won? It was just so beautifully played. Really, really nice. Yeah, and it was really well done. You get a window into. It's also an important scene to make you feel better later on about who Norm is in the bar. It's like, all right, he's got this stuff, and we know how much he loves Vera, and this is okay. And it lets you excuse some things and keep enjoying the show. Philosophical question, though. 2 things, as we are all married people. If you heard a cassette, even though it was confirmed that they were not going to have an affair, but it was your spouse going out to dinner with someone who was clearly discussed having an affair with them, and then, you know what, let's not do that. Like, I guess you're relieved that they're not cheating, but boy, that's a formal consideration of the affair, is it not? That'd be a little uncomfortable, don't you think?
Electric chair.
I kind of loved it in the sense of like Norm and Vera have this obviously very unique and troubled marriage, where and like you just kind of see Norm like kind of put this information in his pocket should he ever need it, which seems like a human thing to do. Maybe not the best thing to do, but it seemed like a human thing to do, to say like, all right, I have this thing I can use should it come up in my relationship. Again, like, and it gave like a little, I was like, all right, if this guy wants to spend his life at this bar, now he's got like a little thing he can play if he starts getting grief about not being at home more. I understood why he did it. It made sense to me and gave me a little uncomfortable, but like felt real window into Norm and Vera. Like sometimes that relationship is so often played for like cartoonish laughs. This felt like there's a little bit more complexity to that relationship than we had seen previously.
Yeah, well put.
But yes, this. I mean, if I get confronted with this particular micro cassette in my house, that's a conversation that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
No conversation. Electric chair.
You just right to it.
Does the fact that Norm passionately made out with Phyllis. Does that ever come back into the Peterson household, do you think? Does that ever get mentioned? Does Phyllis ever say anything? Like, do they go out dancing ever again? There's what do we think are the repercussions of this?
I think they're moving away. The Henshaws are splitting up. They're moving out of town. There's no way. With the way that Phyllis is looking at Norm, there's no way she can live next door to this man.
No.
And again, Miriam Flynn, incredible actor, to make us believe. George Wendt is a fine-looking gentleman. She creates a reality where Phyllis desperately is longing for Norm and is longing for something. And maybe it's just that Norm is there, but it's real in that moment and it's palpable.
Yeah. Well played. Well played indeed.
Both Second City alums. I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
As well as Shelley Long, I didn't realize was a Second City alum.
Shelley Long, Second City?
Yeah, it shocked me. I started kind of following up. Yeah, there's just like a real strong Second City vibe through this show.
No idea. All right, Tookie, your joke of the week, please.
Joke of the week. Sam reading Diane's statement, the latter half of it, when he says, "I apologize to her and all women, both living and dead, whose sensibilities I may have offended." And what's his face on the radio just goes, yeah, whatever peels your potato, Sam.
It was a really great moment when he's reading that apology on the air.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the page flip was terrific.
Yeah.
Fred
Dave,
Dreyer,
your joke of the week.
I just want to say Fred Dreyer is a terrible radio host.
Oh,
He's
God.
awful. Like, prep a question if the phone lines aren't lighting up. Like, have a couple of things. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, who is Dave that he gets all these prime spots? Come on.
I mean, it's like, is the analog like Mike Adams, like somebody who just keeps getting opportunities to not succeed?
Oh.
But Mike talks a lot, there's never dead air when Mike Adams is there. Whatever you might think of Mike keeps the radio airwaves popping.
Absolutely. A professional. Shot rescinded, Mikey Adams. I apologize.
As well you should. All right. Your joke of the week, Dave.
Oh boy. I'm gonna go to that escalating three as Norm and Miriam, Norman and Phyllis are making out, or about to make out, where they refer to their spouses as jackals, adulterers, and then Norm tops it with fornicators. and then right into each other's lips.
Oh my God.
Fornicators is such a good word.
Yeah.
The physical acting in that moment, Phyllis is just hysterical. Just being ragdolled the way that she is in that kiss and seeming like this is exactly what I've been looking for. Just so funny. So funny.
Again, like, points a little bit of a spotlight at like, what is the Henshaw's marriage like? If this is what she's been needing, what is happening in the Henshaw household? I am fascinated.
I don't want to think about it. Think about it.
It's sort of evoking the energy of I don't know if you had heard, but Black Twitter was in shambles at one point because this guy went and tried to fire shots at Drake, and Drake went and turned around and slid into his girlfriend's DMs and said, "You look like you need some excitement in your life."
I enjoy Drake very much.
Classic Drake.
Although I will say this, Phyllis and her husband make me wonder, as we are discussing this, if perhaps there's some Will and Jada energy going on there, where maybe it's the 80s and you can't formally say this, but is this perhaps, hey, you're going to work on Vera and I'm going to work on Norm, and this is how we roll here in Brighton? Any chance that that's potentially a little bit of the energy of like, look, we don't lock each other up?
All I will say is that Phyllis Henshaw
blew your mind there, didn't I?
Is a murky cauldron of sexual desire, and I think anything is on the table, including Phyllis Henshaw.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think the Henshaws have left their keys in a couple of bowls at a couple of parties. That's all I'm saying.
I learned what Adirondack chairs mean, apparently, not long ago. So I'm wondering.
Is that slang for something?
No, apparently, allegedly, if you've got like a couple of Adirondack style chairs on your front porch, you're about that life.
Really?
That is not true. Well, we got to move our chairs. Holy shit. I am not about that life.
So every bed and breakfast in Vermont is swinging?
I guess.
Wow.
Or it's like a
now,
thing.
That feels like, I've heard the whole, like, if there's a pineapple thing on your porch, that's what it's about. Adirondack chairs, that's somebody being way too optimistic. That's someone who's really looking for an excuse to knock on any door. Like, oh, you know what that means when they got a doorknob on the door, right? They're ready to party. They are ready to party. Like we've all known that guy who's like, oh yeah, that's a signal. Dude, that's not a signal.
There's a fair amount of internet chatter that seems to confirm this.
Gas.
I can't just have a couple of nice chairs on my front porch to enjoy my yard.
You can, but then you're just gonna have to fuck a stranger.
Oh, dude. I
hate to be the bearer of bad news.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Take that pineapple wind chime down too. Sorry, Mike.
What if they're not officially Adirondack? Like I think these are off-brand.
Oh, that's
Do they have to be Adirondack?
Then I think you're in the clear.
You think?
My family has cast iron chairs, so we're totally in the clear.
Yeah, but these look like Adirondack.
Damn.
All right. Urban Dictionary says that different colors have different meanings.
Oh God.
Like white ones mean the dude is into both female. Well, okay, I'm not going to finish that.
Don't get us demonetized, please.
Purple means anything goes, apparently.
Oh.
Ours are brown. I don't want to know.
It doesn't say anything about brown, so you're either good or in big trouble.
All right. What if it's so bad it can't even be on the internet?
Yeah, my browser actually set itself on fire. I don't know why.
Yeah, clear that.
Yeah. What's your safe search set to? Is it moderate or is it off?
Clear your history tonight.
The computer is busy pouring gasoline on itself.
All right, Dave, your 80s moment of the week.
I will go with the micro cassette recorder. That is that is an 80s piece of tech, and there's another prominent piece of 80s audio tech, but I'll go with the micro cassette recorder. My dad had one, which he used to record notes for meetings and also to come up with Easter egg hunt rhymes when we were little. There were like tapes of him like trying to come up with rhyme schemes for Easter egg clues. So I have a fondness for the micro cassette recorder.
That is absolutely fantastic. Only made better by the fact that your family is Jewish.
Yeah,
we're really great.
We're playing.
That's a perfect Mr. Rabinow anecdote.
We're playing fast and loose with the rules. Like we got all colors of Adirondack chairs on the front lawn at this point. Anything goes. The Henshaws are over. We don't know what's happening.
Oh Lord.
All right, Tookie, your 80s moments.
You gave yours, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
I forgot what it was. What was my 80s moment? It was when I was
the Johnny Mathis record.
Yeah.
The limited availability of music.
Yeah. Okay. I clocked that tape recorder too, but I will absolutely give that to you. Okay. Mustache Guy is back.
Yes.
Mustache Guy is back, looking like straight off an album cover of Hall & Oates.
Oh my God.
Walking around in the background. And there's a Mustache Guy number 2, actually. He was sitting at the bar wearing like a light colored shirt. Not as intense because he didn't have the mullet situation, but he had a push broom. So, but original Mustache Guy is back. Okay. $27.50 is apparently $73 in today's money. So a bar tab of $27.50 being steep leapt out at me. But in today's money, I'm like, okay, get it. I get it.
Yeah, it'd be significant, although definitely appropriate, I think, if not perhaps a bit cheap for 7 mixed drinks.
Yeah. Yeah. The honk if you're horny bumper sticker. Mention of the song Roxanne when Woody calls in to play Roxanne. So that feels very 80s to me. Toll-free calls. Toll-free calls.
That slipped right by me, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And just the very idea of Norm and Vera Fleetwood Macking with their neighbors. That just...
Yep.
Yeah.
A little aside, too, as we're talking about, you know, the freewheeling lifestyle of everyone in Cheers. What's up with Woody dedicating Roxanne to his girlfriend, Beth? Like, that just kind of gets breezed over. Yeah, you don't have to sell your body to the night. Go ahead. I want to play that for Beth. There's a song called Beth.
Choices were made.
Yeah.
Choices were made.
I feel like they're trying to tell us something.
It's funny to me, too, that like consecutive weeks we've had Woody reference Devo and the Police. And that's not the 80s music I would necessarily associate with Woody Boyd.
No.
Nor would I, no.
No, seems like a John Mellencamp guy.
Ooh.
Yeah, like at its edgiest, that's where he's going.
Yeah. Yep.
Agreed.
Amen. Yeah, he spends a lot of time listening to Prairie Home Companion. All right, Tookie, how white was this week's episode?
Okay. Did I freeze?
Nope.
You're good. Okay,
great. So this episode was like really deeply not white, but there were a lot of repeat extras. So I don't know if we want to count these folks twice or not, but a lot of people that were in scene 1 made their way back to the rest of the scenes, and even in scene 3, which was supposedly a week later. So in the cold open, we've got a black woman sitting by the piano when those two guys pass, a black man talking to a black woman by the wine closet door, a black man in a pink shirt and red tie in the upper booth by Tecumseh, kind of shadowed, you couldn't really see him, a black woman sitting behind Woody, a black man and black woman walking to the door behind the townies, but they come back. But they left, but they come back in later. And then a black woman to the left of Cliff sitting under the Melville stairs. So in the next scene 1, a black woman sitting to the left of Woody, a black man behind Woody, a black woman opening something behind Sam, and then a black man who passed by Diane ends up behind Norm on the back wall, a black woman in the booth behind Carla, a black man and woman from the opening sequence. They're back in that hallway, so more repeats. And an Asian man in a gray suit behind Norm and Phyllis when they're chit-chatting. Scene 2, the woman who was sitting at the piano is back. The man. It was a man sitting behind the piano. He's back behind Sam. And the same black couple is now the ones that like went in and out and were apparently playing darts, I guess. Sitting up by the piano, another repeat extra at the back wall, and then someone new, a black woman in a pink blazer who's standing with him. And then in scene 3, there was a black woman at the bar, a Latina woman next to Cliff, a repeat extra behind Norm, 3 repeat extras behind Norm again. And then a black man sitting on top of the table behind Diane, like sitting on top of the table. And there was another guy behind Diane. The blocking is a choice there. A black woman sitting in the booth by the entrance, and the same Asian man in the gray suit, now in like an Argyle sweater vest situation, talking to a black man at the back wall who's also a repeat extra, and a black man who exited the pool room. So a lot of people of color, but a lot of repeats. So it's like it looks like about 14 without the repeats. So like a good chunk of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 14 without the repeats. It's got to be like 20 appearances.
Which is, it's nice, but like also repeats.
I hear you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I did feel like this week was like anytime there was a shot with, where it wasn't just like two people alone in the, it wasn't just Norm and Phyllis alone in the back room.
Right.
There were always multiple people of color in the shot. And I was like, oh, this is, I was like, they're starting to figure this out, how to make this seem like a city and not a just like a white enclave.
Yeah.
Very nice. I mean, parts of it very nice. That sentiment is nice. Would have been great if a few more people had gotten jobs.
No.
Yeah.
They tried.
But yeah, as someone who has been an extra on set, I get how that works. And yeah, they're not going to pay another person when they could just put you in a different shirt and say, now go stand in a different spot. So I get it. Yeah. And if you ever watch an old episode of The Practice, look towards the back of the gallery.
Ooh.
You just might see Mike D hanging out there. And if someone can track down an episode of the Rita Rudner Show,
wow.
Ooh,
I'm laughing right behind it. It's funny. So yeah, you used to get to do paid audience work for some of those talk shows, which is like a dirty little secret. Which is if it's not the Tonight Show, one of the big ones, they don't have enough people to fill up the audience. So you get paid to sit in the audience. And I remember, so I got paid to go to the Rita Rudner Show. And it was like a talk show. And she would have like guests, almost like politically incorrect, but they didn't talk about anything particularly important. But Rita Rudner was entertaining. And I just remember that her guest that week was the cast of Boo, which was like an improv show that was happening in Vegas that her husband and her were producing. And I was like, man, this show's in trouble. These are the guests? Holy shit.
The cast
like,
of Boo?
Boo.
Spell
no
that?
reason you should have heard it. B-O-O.
B-O-O, Boo?
Yeah, like a ghost.
You know what
like
that
the
means?
Spirit of a successful show. Boo.
You said that and it made me immediately think of like Boo, a Medea Halloween. And if that is the cast that's visiting on a talk show, that show is also in trouble.
Yeah, no, this was and it just stuck in my head because I was like, if this show doesn't air, we still get paid, right? And luckily we did. Yeah, we just had to show up. Yeah, it wasn't the kind of thing where it's like the episode of your game show has to air for you to actually win the money. Just all we had to do was show up. Yeah. Yep.
Man, that is like when Adam Carolla is like, I can't do it. Like that's a bad sign.
Yeah. I couldn't believe how many shows just desperately needed someone to sit in the audience.
That's wild.
Yep. There you go. $7 an hour, baby.
Ooh, big balling.
Oh, don't you forget it. Yeah, that's why I was rolling in my no air conditioning Saturn back in the day.
Was it
speed manual?
Gold? Was it the gold one?
No, it was gray.
Okay.
It was dark gray. It was bad. But I got it for $1,000 and it ran. So it was like, all right, this is what you get for $1,000 in LA. It was a stick shift and it had no air conditioning, and I was like the only person in LA willing to drive it. And that's what I drove.
A car's a car.
Thank God no woman ever asked me, what kind of car do you drive? Because that would have been rough. Even worse than swingers. All right. How creepy was Sam this week? The Sam creepy quotient. It's a tough grade this week.
Kind of creepy.
I mean, talking about women enjoying him more out of his uniform on the radio. It's like, but it was the question.
He's just being honest.
Like someone directly asked him, like, hey, you and the ladies, tell us more. It's not like someone said, how do you throw a knuckleball? And he's like, well, let me tell you how the ladies like the knuckleball. It's like, all right, well, here you go. This was the question. So that's why it's always a tough call.
I like how they built in like a little bit of like flop sweat before it, that he is kind of like literally kind of hanging there. And, this opening comes in and it is something that Sam is going to be happy to talk about. And which sort of, makes sense that he's going to be kind of gross.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna. I guess it sort of softens it a little bit from my perspective in that, like, there is this sort of weird moment of vulnerability. This fading athlete losing his fame in front of all these listeners, that who then just kind of resorts to like locker room talk to try to, to fill the space. I guess I'll give him like a sad 6.
That's valid. I would say, yeah. I mean, my ranking of him this week is a little lower, primarily because someone else triggered the creepiness. Like it wasn't like he was doing okay pre-caller.
Yeah.
So had the person not called in, I don't think he would have been as creepy this week.
I feel like his score gets lowered a little bit too because he cares about Diane's feelings and is willing to let her write something that he reads on his friend's show, and that kind of, makes him look, a little less stereotypical of masculinity. So yeah, that kind of lowers the score for me. I think I'm somewhere around a 5, 6.
I'm around a 7, mainly because he was triggered into, like, someone activated him. Okay, they activated. They put the battery in his back. He didn't have to take it where he
did not have to take the bait. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Did not have to take the bait. Very fair.
Love
Very
Bunny.
fair. Love Bunny. All right. Any final thoughts before we put episode 8 in the bed?
Just one more shout out to Santo Carbone. That character is so fun. I don't think he's going to ever appear again, and it's kind of a bummer because he's terrific.
I wish I would have built a whole spinoff around Santo.
Yeah. Carla's got a lot of cousins.
Yeah.
By the way, I do realize I said put this episode in the bed, which I've just meant to say to bed, and it came out weird. And I feel like the incredible eroticism of this episode is potentially infecting my mind. So sorry that I made it in the bed as opposed to put it to bed.
Mike, I think if you look behind you, I think there's like a bunch of people on your front porch.
Oh boy.
All right. Well, we're going to have to wrap this up early. Mike's got to entertain. More chairs. We're building a whole fire pit.
What have I started?
I didn't know until you told me, and now I've just got to live that life.
That Adirondack chair lifestyle.
I'm so sad now. But shall we talk the game?
We should talk the game.
We've got 8 minutes.
I did not think they were winning that game. Oh my God, it was a tough start. I was afraid this was going to be an emotional letdown because it really felt like they were supposed to win game 3. They came so close, so many bad calls, so many near misses, so many shots in and out. I mean, just a game where if Jason Tatum had shot 6 for 19, they win. And I just was going into game 4, wasn't feeling it. Bad start. Williams was hurt. Terrible first half. Terrible first quarter. We're up by like a point at the half. Awful third quarter. And just feeling like it was going to be very easy for them to say, we're on the road. We're down a man. We're tired. We just can't do this. And instead, they had one of the best quarters they have played all year. That fourth quarter was unbelievable. Al Horford somehow became Dr. J. It was just unbelievable. Tatum found his shot. They're making circus baskets. It was just unbelievable. I mean, Giannis looked like me after I had to run half a mile. It was just incredible. He was sucking wind. He couldn't get off the floor. It was brutal. I loved it.
17 for 19. That's as close to pornography as I've ever encountered in basketball. To go 17 for 19 in a quarter is absurd.
It's just incredible. So it begs the question, do you go small again tomorrow night? I mean, you almost have to when it works that well, don't you? Don't you almost have to start Derek White instead of Grant Williams and just go small tomorrow?
But is it the case that they'll see it coming after it works so well?
I mean, they're going to prepare for it because they know they're
Right.
going to see that lineup anyway.
Right.
So don't you want to maximize your opportunities with that lineup?
Right.
You know, it's not like we figured out something that the Milwaukee bench is not going to figure out. So they're going to know, oh, wow, the small ball lineup worked really well. Can they answer it?
I think you got to take it. This was an incredible performance by Al, and I think like you can't rely on him to deliver that kind of defensive rebounding again. I think if Rob can come back, you gotta run him for like 20-25 minutes if possible.
I mean, you're not going to bench Rob if he can play. I mean, Williams still he's an extremely talented basketball player. My thought is more if Williams can't play Game 5, which I think is reasonable since there's only one day off in between. I think there's a real good chance we're not seeing Rob Williams the rest of the series. And if we do, it won't be until Game 7.
Ooh, don't say
I'm just saying. They've asked a lot from him. I think when we're at this point where it's one day off in between, I don't see his knee bouncing back that quickly. And they're not going to want to risk his long-term health. So if he was experiencing some soreness, I'd be really surprised if they didn't give him another day off. So to me, the question isn't so much do you go small or do you start Rob Williams? It's do you go small or do you start Grant? I think that's the question because Grant started in place of Rob last night, and Derek White finished it off. So, Derek White started in place of Marcus Smart when Smart couldn't go in Game 2. In this situation, obviously White replaced a guard, Williams replaced a big man. Do you instead replace a big man with another guard and go small and just try to run? And force them to lean on Grayson Allen and Drew Holiday even more.
Yeah. I think
it feels like that's the way to go. And Grant Williams, until the second half last night, he'd had a good series. He played Giannis well. But I also think it opens up a lot more possibilities for you when you do go small. You're making Milwaukee put out a team that's worse. I don't think your team with Derek White is appreciably worse than it is with Grant Williams, but you're making Milwaukee put a worse team out there if you go small.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think either way, I think you're going to see a lot of Derek White going forward.
Yeah. I was worried about him after Game 1, too. I was going, oh, Jesus. Actually, after Game 2, he couldn't score in Game 2.
Yeah, but
the first two games, you're going, I don't know about this.
The defense never stopped.
Never wavered.
Defense never stopped. The passing never stopped. I love him. I'm
and now the
Derek
shot's
White.
fallen. Yeah, he's not been afraid to shoot. I was afraid he was a little nervous and afraid to shoot. He was a little gun shy. He was willing to put the shot up. That's why I think for my money, if Rob can't go tomorrow, I'm starting Derek and going small. Rob's my center, or Horford's my center. Tatum thrived at power forward too. He seemed to be unlocked a little bit when he was the 4 instead of the 3.
You think we found the cheat code?
Maybe.
It's our Hamptons lineup.
And the cheat code is a perfect way to end season 4, episode 8.
Oh, nicely done.
There you go. All right. You guys doing anything you need to plug this week?
Nope.
No.
All right.
Just enjoying citizenship.
Nice. I think I'm doing Democracy Brewing on Saturday, but there was a weird email about something happening in that room, so maybe it's not happening. I don't know.
Cool. We love a weird email.
There you go. All right. For Tookie, for Dave, I'm Mike. This has been Cheers, the Norm podcast that isn't. We'll be back next week with episode 9. Until then, stay safe, stay happy. Bye, everybody.